Hello, everybody, and welcome to this super fun, amazing interview here with author David J. Delaney of The Vanishing. Hello.
Hello, CC. Thank you for having me on, mate.
How are you doing, man? Because we haven't
Good.
just been talking.
No, we haven't. We've never spoken before. This is the first time ever. I'm good. I'm good. It's for people out there. It's 5:30 in the morning in Australia. It's dark
Nice.
outside. Dark, cold, and lonely. Yeah. No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
It's
I've had my coffee
it's
already.
it's 11:38 in North Hollywood.
Is it North
Yes.
Hollywood? That sounds fancy. I can just say Sydney.
It's not
Doesn't sound as
fancy.
fancy. No,
It's not
sounds
fancy.
good. Sounds good.
It sounds amazing, but yeah. Um, Now, your book, The Vanishing, just came out, what, a week
Yes.
ago?
Yeah, week in a day. So it came out on the 11th, and
Right
it's the
on.
20th of April. So yeah, week in a day.
So tell us what the book is about.
So the book is it's a thriller. So I basically the main theme I wanted to get was kind of a lot of loss. So it deals with first of all the loss of a wife. Um, Husband loses a wife, daughter loses a mother, so we deal with that at first. And then it also deals with kind of loss of a partnership of two cops. And through disappearance of the daughter and this partnership of the cop, uh, they'll come into contact through investigations. But really the main thing throughout it is how they deal with that loss, how they move forward. And then it also has the crime of murder and kidnap as well, and then rolls into something much deeper and much bigger, and all based in Sydney, Australia.
What inspired you to do it?
So really where I started was I've always read a lot of crime fiction, and like growing up, Patricia Cornwell was probably the very actually Postmortem was the very first crime fiction book that I picked up from a library when I was like 14. Before that, I was like Stephen King, gotta read Stephen King, Dean Koontz, gotta read Dean Koontz. So I pretty much read everything they had, and then moved on to crime fiction. And then from there, I kind of got into a lot of UK authors, so like Ian Rankin, people like that, and really got into those. Mark Billingham was one big one when I was growing up as well. And so from there, I kind of developed a bit more into it, and TV, movies, and anything in around that genre kind of inspired the novel, because like I always had it in my head that I was going to write horror and that's it. Horror is going to be the big thing, but I actually found when I started writing police, thriller, investigation, things like that, I actually really enjoyed it, and I pulled a lot from things from growing up, movies, even games as well. I know there's a lot more thriller games than there ever used to be nowadays. So yeah, really pulled a lot from that, and that's where it was inspired from.
Now, I came from thinking I'm a horror writer, I'm going to be a horror writer, and then I ended up
Mm.
writing like crime and mysteries and stuff. Why do you
Yeah,
think that is that people because me and you aren't the only people that have gone down that road where you think you're a horror
no,
writer and then all of a sudden all this other stuff happens. What do you think happens to people to make that change?
I, I, I think. Well, I think first of all, murder that you can explain by human nature. Um, I think of it that intrigues people because turn on the TV at night, you've got real life crime, you've got even the news is splashed full of stories like that. So I think human nature intrigues people, and when they can identify possibly with characters in a story. I mean, like for instance, my wife when she reads through my work, she gets freaked out by the murders in it because she can picture herself in those horrible situations. So she hates reading those scenes, and I think that's what people like to do. Where when you have a horror novel, and I love horror. Horror is probably my primary passion when it comes to what I read because I'll always pick up a King or Queen's novel. Um, First and foremost, and that's just from I suppose habit nowadays as well. Like everyone, but I think when it has a supernatural twist, you enjoy it, but you can't identify with it as such because you can't think to yourself, maybe I'm going to get attacked by several vampires in a small little town. They'll set them off. But you can think, hey, maybe if I'm walking down the road, that guy could actually jump down and kill me. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a human nature aspect, the fact you can identify with possibly what's happening.
I just watched a movie last night from New Zealand called Housebound. Have you seen that?
Housebound? No. It's interesting you say that because there's actually some really good movies that come out of New Zealand and Australia nowadays. Some really good ones.
Have you seen a movie from the 70s called The Pajama Girl Case?
Oh my god, I have. And you know what? I've only recently seen that as well. That's freaky. Like that was where the hell did I see? I'd seen that somewhere, but it was only like in the last 6 months. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I need to remember where I saw it. That is really random. That's going to rack my brain now for days on end. Where I've seen this movie, it could have been streamed online. Not that I do that. That's wrong, but it could have been. Yeah, I actually can't remember, but yeah, I have seen it.
Yeah, that's a really good, fun crime thriller that takes place in Sydney.
Yeah,
that's my little favorite of that.
There hasn't been many, and I think the overarching theme would be completely away from horror or thriller would be Mad Max. That's what Australia is known for, and it is the best. I do love it. Before Mel Gibson lost his mind.
Yeah. Well, there's a great documentary called Ozploitation, I think is what it's called. About, have you seen that?
No, I haven't actually. A couple of people have talked about it online, and as a couple of groups I'm in for writers in Australia, and yeah, a couple have talked about that. But yeah, it's meant to be really, really good.
It's really good because there's a lot of movies I think that people don't even realize were made in Australia that were amazing. But yeah, so that's some good stuff there.
Actually, just to add to that, this is pretty cool because every time I watch this movie, and I've watched it many times, when the first Matrix was filmed in Sydney, and there's a scene where Neo's hanging from the chopper, and as it flies through the city, you can actually see the apartment building I live in, which is really, really cool. Neo flew over my house at one stage. Well, I wasn't here at the time, but I would have stared out the window for days on end if I could have seen Keanu Reeves hanging from a chopper.
Dad, get away from the window, please. We're trying to film this in.
You like that urban legend? Is that a ghost in the window from the Two Men and a Little Lady? It could have been Night Face staring out the window. Keanu Reeves waving as he saved Morpheus.
That's awesome. Now, you actually had some stuff traditionally published before you did the self-publishing thing, right?
Yeah, so I had short stories, because where I started with the whole writing again, because I wrote in school. Nobody tells you in school you should be a writer. Everyone says that's crazy. Go to uni, do something. So I studied psychology. Absolutely hated that. Didn't do anything with it, and just kind of drifted in and out of office jobs for years. So it's only when I retrained as a registered nurse that I had three months off before I started the role. So I read a couple of different kind of trade books, like Write, Publish, Repeat, and On Writing by Stephen King. So I thought, hey, cool, he says write short stories. He loves the short story format, so I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. So I wrote short stories, and I probably wrote in the first year, maybe 2021. And I just started getting them out there. So I eventually found a publishing house in the UK, a couple of publishing houses in the UK that actually released them as anthologies. As part of a collection of short stories and anthologies. So that was pretty cool, but it's only when I kind of went further down the track that I realized they don't really sell. Short story format doesn't really sell that well, so I kind of kicked that a bit. I still have a couple of things released here and there, but I really kicked that a bit and focused on novels. And where that's when I kind of went down the self-publishing route and decided to get those out there.
Now, I saw on Amazon Return to Bethlehem.
Yeah, that
Is
was
that one of those?
they. I don't know if they have gone down the traditional publishing route, but that was my last or second last short story. I think that was released last year in a horror anthology, and the reason I submitted it, I randomly wrote a Christmas horror that a deranged killer, as you do, whatever that means, and I literally did a search and just said Christmas horror short story. These guys came up from Grinning Skull Press, and I was like, awesome, I'll submit this because I don't know anywhere I can get rid of a Christmas horror story for. So I submitted it to them. So yeah, there's been them in another place called Horror Fight Press in the UK as well. And I know they've recently opened up their own store as well. So yeah, I've had a lot of stuff published through them, which has been pretty cool. And the short story format, I probably recommend it for any writer because it really teaches you how to write. And it's actually, I find it probably a little bit more difficult than even writing a novel because you've got to nail such a story in a small word count. Like a lot of places have 5,000 and that's it. If you're 10% over, it's like, yeah, goodbye. So yeah, it's a great format to learn how to read, or learn how to write, and that's one thing I'm sticking on writing that I really took to heart.
So, speaking of word count, what's the word count for The Vanishing?
So that's 68,000 words. That was just my alarm to get up out of bed. It's okay, I'm up out of bed. Awesome.
That's rad.
There you go. I was expecting you for 20 minutes. So yeah, 67,000 words. I think the original word count was 85, and I probably called a good 20% of it.
What are you going to do with that?
So a lot of that I copy and paste everything into a few word files. So I've got like horror, crime, thriller, things like that. And I pretty much just have a look through it every so often as I'm writing new material and see if I can change, incorporate it, or just leave it there. I kind of keep everything I write. So I've got a few folders which just have the beginnings of novels, so maybe like 10,000 words of novels, or it's got like 1,000 words of short stories, or it's got the cuts, and it's all just this garbage file. So when eventually when they find my computer in 50 years in the future, it's gonna be a lot of garbage on there, but it could be released. Who knows? Ramblings.
You mentioned Stephen King's on writing. Do you think that is dated at all now?
It's funny. I would have liked to back then said, yeah, that's going to be me, but I don't know. I think I've slowly, and I'm not there yet, but I think I'm slowly developing my own voice. And I always thought that's going to be Stephen King. That's going to be like Stephen King, and I think everyone knows, like, that's going to be me. Where I'm probably more in line, I suppose, with, if anyone's familiar with Mark Billingham, because I've actually read a book of his, one of his first books, Scaredy Cat, and I read it again a couple of weeks ago, And it's funny, I could actually see bits of me in there. It's weird, obviously, he wrote that way before I started writing, but I was like, wow, that's actually, and it's funny, I haven't read one of his books in a few years. So I think I'm developing my own voice based on everyone I've read in the past. And so, yeah, I think years ago I would have said, hey, that's going to be me, Stephen King Jr., but no, I don't think it is anymore. I think you carve your own path, really, and you carve your own style of writing,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah. So if you, as inspiration to you, actual fiction works, what are like the top three books that inspired you to get going here?
So definitely on writing would be one, and that's on writing is something I've probably read once every like 9 months or so because I love this and I love the start of his life. I think that's great, and I think the whole story around Carrie. Just because every writer thinks that's going to happen to me, that's going to happen to me. I'm going to get this call. It's going to be amazing. But I think it's just a great story and it's a great lead up to his where he became successful. And then I read self publishing. I always thought I was going to go down the traditional route. I'm just going to, I suppose I've read online, have that 10-year plan where I'm just going to write a book after book, basically one every 1 to 2 years, and just keep submitting them. And when I read Write, Publish, Repeat, um, I didn't know what SPP was. I didn't know the guys, John, Shani, and Dave. I didn't know who they were because I never really looked into that world. And it's only when I read that I realized how well there's actually a way you can, get your work out there and publish it. So I thought that was pretty awesome. So that's probably the second. And then I suppose the third would be, as I look at my bookshelf, that's pretty small. Um, you know what? There's a book I pulled out over and over again, and it's probably Eat, Shoots, Leaves, by Lynn Truss. It's probably the first book I read on. It's on punctuation and grammar, but it's the first book I read that I was like, wow, I'm making so many mistakes, and it really kind of kicked me. And that's a book that I now read say once every year, just to make sure that I'm not going to give my editor hell.
Yeah,
And but it's such a great book that it's easy to read. So yeah, I thought that they're probably the top three books that have kind of influenced me as a writer.
that's awesome, man. What are you reading right now?
So right now I'm actually reading John Oakes' Death Pop.
Nice.
Um, Again, John's someone we keep in touch with online, and it's one of those books you don't know what to expect, but then when you're reading it, and I'm probably 10, 15 pages away from the end, and I'm like, oh my god, this is an amazing book. It's so different than I thought it was going to be. And you just love the journey. So that's what I'm reading at the moment. But I always have a few books on the go. So I've just read Jay Thorne's Black Fang Betrayal, which
Uh,
um, which is such a great concept. It's 10 authors, each take a chapter, each take a character, and all filter into the one book. So yeah, that's been an awesome book. And the last one I'm reading is Zach Bohannon's The Witness, because I promised
um,
them I'd read it 2 weeks ago and get a review of it, and I've been really really remiss in my friend duty. So yeah, I'm reading that at the moment, which is I've only started it, but yeah, it's really really good. Zach's killing it.
so what's your next work?
My next one is I want to get book two out of. I'm going to create this. The Vanishing is going to be part of a series, and but the idea I have for this kind of like the case series, so it's not necessarily book one, book two, book three. It's just going to be part of a Dean Cornell series. He's the lead detective of the Sydney Homicide Squad. So book two, hopefully in the next 3 months. So I'd like that out by say mid to late June, and I want to create a novella, so maybe 15, 25,000 word novella, which I want to get up online and offer as part of my as part of my kind of CTA for mailing list. And again, that's going to be in the same world. And eventually, yeah, I'd like to kind of flesh out this series and yeah, see where it goes. It's but yeah, it's been fun so far.
Right on, man. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Wait, thank you, man. Really
That was
appreciate it.
awesome.
Yeah.
So The Vanishing is out now, so everyone go read it.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, hope you enjoy it.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Take care.
Sweet, man. Take care, man.